copy of this presentation, sir? I am
Yes,
not
yes.
very sure. We'll have to. I'll check if anyone else can correct me. If it has it been uploaded on the Wisenet? I have not yet checked.
Not yet checked.
We'll check, sir. We'll check and come back, sir.
Yeah, because I would like you to have a copy because you still have a fair amount of time to write the report. This is, I think, in time-wise, this gives you a good idea as to what is the expectation at the end of the project. So you can
Yes.
start, aligning your work, the final,
So
the capstone
must be there,
cycle.
sir. We'll check it on the. We'll
Yeah,
check it on the Wisenet. In case it is not there, we'll get in touch with you and take a copy of
sure,
the
sure.
presentation.
Yeah, sure. That is, yeah,
So,
that's fine. That's fine. So here we have the capstone cycle, what we call it. So it's got three cycles. Number one is the one-pager, one-on-one discussion of the one-pager, preparation of the project proposal, approval by the company mentor. So up to the time you prepare the project proposal, which is about probably 3-4 months in your case, you're only looking at how to select. Subsequent to that, the evaluation begins. So till such time, there was no evaluation so that people can find out what is the appropriate project title for their capstones. Then approval by the faculty guide and evaluation and approved midterm review plans, something which we introduced maybe 2 years back or so, where you have to provide a midterm review plan. So this is not only to enable the faculty to have some sort of a written document which they can refer to at the time of the midterm review, and also for every participant to plan the work. So this is the first cycle. So anybody remembers what was your feeling? What was your mental condition during the first cycle? Any feelings that you had at that time, which you can recall? Not able to recollect. Typically, anxiety, how I will select my topic, what is this capstone? In fact, I think most people have not. How many of you have heard of the capstone project before you joined this course? May not be many, right? So you're all wondering, what is this animal, how to get around it. So initially there is some anxiety, followed by some initial work, and then slowly the anxiety wears off, and then slowly you get a little more confident. By the time you prepare the the proposal defense document, you are little more confident and better prepared to start the work. So that is a phase of anxiety, I would say. Secondly, the work itself. Once you prepare the proposal defense document and then you're on your way and you find ways to get your work done. And that is again a phase. Initially, there may be some uncertainty. There is no more lack of confidence because you have chosen the project in consultation with your company mentor. So the company mentor plays a very crucial role. That's the person who will guide you or who will help you want to carry out your work. So once you have that, I think in the proposal defense document, you have to get the approval of the mentor. That is a very great comfort. So you can confidently get on with the work, start the work, and go on. And by the time the midterm review is saying that you have already prepared the midterm review presentation. So by that time, you are more or less halfway through your work, and you are quite clear and far more confident than what you were in the preparatory part. And finally, the last mile. So after the midterm review is over, many people have a lot of still work to do. There's a lot of work to be done. The midterm review is only a middle guidance is issued by the faculty, and yourself you will also get to know how much work you have done. And when you discuss with the faculty, you will also recognize what are the gaps to be filled up and so on. So the last mile is complete the work, then prepare the PPT for the Viva, prepare the draft report. Now the draft report is now final report. There is no need to prepare a draft. Whatever report you prepare is a final report. And so the final report is what you will be evaluated on. You will be evaluated for the Viva and for the draft and the report. These two are separate components of evaluation. And the faculty will evaluate both while your mentor, company mentor, will evaluate your Viva. So this is the last mile. And on and complete your work. So this is the overall cycles of the capstone project. Now, if we look at the objectives of a capstone, solve a business problem in your organization. So I hope that all of you are doing this. Anybody want to speak
Yes,
on
sir.
the problem? Yeah. What is the problem that you are solving in your organization?
Anyway, figuring out how to grow fem hygiene products on quick commerce. So relatively last year, it was
Yeah.
the contribution of quick commerce was very low. And the challenge was how the growth can happen, how the impulse purchases are happening on quick commerce, and how a category like fem hygiene is shifting towards quick commerce. So that was the problem statement my capstone project was on. I think in the entire journey, we were able to figure out how we can scale on channels like Blinkit, Zepto, Instamart, and all.
Okay. Great. So, solving a business problem in your organization is a very important aspect. Then develop strategic thinking skills. Now, can somebody talk about what strategic thinking skills have you developed? What is this idea? What is the idea behind this developing strategic thinking? What is the context for this in terms of the capstone project?
So strategic thinking in terms of a capstone project is to look at a problem from a very close view, from a very close angle, and then find out strategies to mitigate it in the future, and how
Yeah.
to come over those problems, the problem statement in future, aligning the goals of the company and the aim of the overall
Correct.
of the
Correct.
company.
Yeah. Yeah. Aligning your project with the company strategy. Second is to do the primary research. The primary research is the one that helps you to think. Very often, those of you who have joined this course, maybe quite a few of you, were probably working in one or two departments. But then now, when you start looking at strategy, then you look at the company as a whole. You look at your company in the context that it is serving. What are the markets it is participating in? What products is your company bringing to the market? What is the strength of the employees? What is the strength of the company? What should you be doing in the market to become more competitive? So your strategic thinking is aligned largely with creating a competitive set of skills and set of products and so on, which will help your company. Now, this is often developed through primary research. So that is where you read about the strategies of various companies and you get to know what market your company is serving in, what are the contacts. And nowadays, a lot of your companies are working in the international arena. So therefore, you have to know not only what is happening in India, but also what is happening abroad. Very often, many of your companies are all India companies. Therefore, you need to know what is happening in various directions in the country as well. So all these things you may not have paid a lot of attention when you are working in your companies prior to joining this course. Once you join this course, then you are told strategically how to make decisions in the light of the companies. And that is what this strategic thinking skills development refers to. And finally, they develop leadership. Leadership in the context of the capstone project, leadership skills is something which you develop by doing. While strategic thinking also involves a fair amount of gathering knowledge and so on, development of leadership skills places more emphasis on going and doing things. How, for example, how to get opinions about your project from other people in the group, in the company, how to make the organization take an interest in your project, how to ensure that your project will have a large impact on the company, how to make sure that your project gets implemented through the organization. So these are skills which you need to develop, and this is where the preparation of the questionnaire and the secondary research, where you develop a lot of information and knowledge about your past of the company, and then what the company is looking in the future, and then how to place your capstone project in this context and get that. For implementing any capstone, leadership skill is very important. So these are the three important aspects or objectives of a capstone project. What should the capstone project accomplish? Should be smart. So we are aware of what is smart. Smart is specific, or I would even say substantive. Select a project which is substantive. Don't select a project which is too small and it will not likely create an impact on the organization. Then M is measurability, and together with R, which is realistic. So these two make the capstone project something which is implemented within the company. Realistic in this context means making it happen within the company. And measurability. So what effort did you put in? What efforts others put in? What total efforts have been put in? And finally, what results have been obtained? This is the context of M and R. A is assignment or assignability, and that is assigned yourself assigned in the capstone project, and then you are assigning tasks to various people in the organization in conjunction with the mentor and other senior managers in the company. So that is the context of A. And time is timely and time bound. Timely means you submit the report on time, and time bound means your capstone project should last at least 16 months. Only then can you do substantive work. So that is the design aspect of capstone projects. Should last for 16 months of useful work. Now this last, can one of you talk about what impact your capstone is creating on the organization as of now, and what is the likely impact when you complete? That their project will have an impact. Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. All right. So I assume that your project is yet to create a good impact, but keep it in mind that if you, in terms of career building, there is nothing like an instrument like a capstone project can provide you with the necessary ammunition to advance your career. So you need to make sure that your project creates an impact on the organization as a whole. So these are the accomplishments which are expected from a capstone project. Okay, let's move ahead. Yeah, now the basis for preparing a report is this particular slide. So the design of the report, you can do it in this particular way. You can describe primary research, you can describe secondary research, you can do anyone can be put first. Depending on your project, you can put secondary first or you can put primary first, whichever. And then you go to description of the primary research and second round, secondary research, second round, and finally, what analysis did you do? Analysis of the primary and secondary research, recommendations to be made. Finally, rework the recommendations if required, obtain management approval, and this last block is perhaps very important. Implementation of your recommendations, results from your study, establish validity by demonstrating that it works in the organization, propose further work, and move to spreading the capstone project way, the philosophy behind capstone project thinking in your company. So this is the you will see how step by step these 5 basic building blocks of the capstone project will be reflected in the report. How these blocks form the basis for your capstone project report. Okay, so that is the forward way. So let us look at the preparation of the project. Now there are 11 areas which we will talk about in writing the report. First is acknowledgement. Many of you, I'm sure, read books and so on, and you will find right at the beginning of the book there is something called as acknowledgement. So someone say, why do you need this acknowledgement? Why should you have this acknowledgement page? What is the use of this acknowledgement? Why do we have it in a book, or why do we have it in a capstone project?
I think it is to acknowledge the efforts of the all those who had supported you during the process, during the preparation, during the entire work, and for the preparation of the report.
The acknowledgement is being grateful. Also recognizing that only you cannot do anything in isolation. You need to have a lot of other instruments which will help you to be successful in doing the project. When you write acknowledgement, don't get very emotional, be factual, begin with the largest contribution and then go down. So there are, different people. Probably the mentor will probably make the largest contribution because you are in touch with the mentor almost on a daily basis. So perhaps that may be the case. Sometimes the faculty also is very important. Be inclusive, choose your words with care, and be sensitive about this last sentence is important, because you cannot, if you acknowledge each and every person and lose little control on writing the acknowledgement, then it will become very long. So be a little careful in including someone for acknowledgement and excluding someone from acknowledging. Yeah? So not everybody needs to be acknowledged. That decision is yours. Now I'm just putting this in front of you. Just read this and give me your comment as to is this a good way of writing an acknowledgement? I'll give you 2 minutes to read this and give me your comments.
Maybe some more names could have been added, sir.
Could have been added. Okay. Yeah, I think what you're saying is be a little more specific. For example,
it's
all
more
my
generic.
seniors and colleagues. Generic. Yeah, this is a little bit. Maybe you could have been more specific. Yeah, correct. Anything else? I'm glad that this person wrote last but not the least. I'll thank the professor so that he has remembered the faculty guide.
Also, the faculties who have been faculty members.
So let us
who
see.
Have been a part of the journey. Whatever way possible.
Absolutely, yeah. So let us see if he has put it in the second page. So he has thanked the mentor, section head. What do you think of this page? I think something which is quite nice is complete the project only because of his guidance regarding techniques and frameworks. So I think, like this, if you are able to isolate certain things and certain people contribute to certain specific areas, that may be a good idea. You can do that. Somebody helped you in primary, somebody helped you in secondary. So an analysis, somebody gave you some suggestions for recommendations. So that would be specific acknowledgement, right? And then many people do this, supporting their family support, they acknowledge. So that is fine. So overall, but for the language, don't get very emotional and, entire curriculum and email is supported me a lot. So there are sentences where the person says that without that, I would not have been possible to close the project. Such over sentimentalization may not be necessary. Yeah. So this is what the acknowledgement is. Okay, let's go to the bona fide. Next is the bona fide certificate. Every project report must contain this bona fide certificate. Now, why do you think a bona fide certificate is needed? Anyone? Why should this be included in the capstone report? So there are 2 or 3 important factors here. One is it is a partial fulfillment of executive EMB. Second, it is also declaration that has not been submitted earlier in SPJ. Suppose you have done a project in the classroom and you are submitting some same thing as a report. That is also not required. That is also not correct. Finally, what the bona fide certificate for primary purpose is that you declare, you take responsibility and accountability for the project. It is an original work carried out by me. So if you yourself don't say that, then we have an issue. If we expect you to say, yes, I have done this work and this work has been done by me and it is original. So these words are very important. And if you declare this, it's like in a court of law, they say that, whatever I'm going to say is the truth and nothing but the truth. Of course, that is, you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But here, that salt doesn't work. It's all sugar, and just make sure that this project is original and not taken out from anywhere else. So that is the idea of the bona fide certificate. Table of contents. So every project report must contain a table of contents. So here you would say a section, chapter, and so on. And then you also have a list of tables and list of figures. So here the issue is table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can name it this way. Or you can do it 1.1, 1.2, and so on, which says that the table is in chapter 1. 1.1 is first table in chapter 1. 1.2 is second table in chapter 1. So that means you can quickly identify where the table is found in a text of maybe 50, 60 pages. So it may be more useful to go up to one place of decimal, 1.1. Some people do 1.1.1, but that may not be required in this document of about 50, 60 pages. If the document is 150 pages or so, then you need the 1.1.1, that sort of a numerical number. Otherwise, you can make do with 1.1, figure 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 3.1, and so on. So this should be contained in and then when you actually write your capstone report, you will find a few more items also, which you can include in the table of contents. The table of contents only tells the reader that these are the things which you can find in this particular report, organized along the headings outlined in or contained in the contents. Okay, so that's the idea. The very important item number 4 is very important. So do pay a lot of attention to this. Executive summary is something which is very important. That gives the reader a very quick and insight idea of what you have done. Here, you can have one paragraph on company, and in that 1 or 2 paragraphs, you go straight away to what is your unit and where is your project done. So suppose you're working in Maruti, for example. So Maruti has got so many divisions. So you can say that Maruti is a company which is got a turnover of so and so, manufacturing cars with a with a market participation of almost 45-50% of the passenger vehicles being sold in the country and so on. But in that same paragraph, my project is on the inventory, my project is on developing technology, my project is on improving the supply chain or so on. So in the 1 or 2 paragraphs, come straight to your project. Link your project with the company in 2 or 3, maximum 2 paragraphs. Then description of the division issues and the issues that you will address in the project. Then methodology used, primary and secondary research. What did you do in primary and secondary research? Tools and techniques used. These things you put in 3 or 4 paragraphs and just make sure that these are concisely and fully described to the extent feasible in 3 or 4, 1 or 2 paragraphs. The results achieved. What did you achieve? Fulfillment of target set for the project. Suppose you had said that I will increase market share by 5%, then you can. So at least it will give a clear idea to the reader that what targets have you fulfilled, what targets will be fulfilled in the future. What went well, what could have been better. So now you are looking into the reflective areas. So when you are reflecting, then you can say what went well, what could have been better, and so on, right? And then learnings from the project. This is organizational, personal. This is where you can talk about the impact of the capstone. Impact is in 2 parts at least. One is the impact on the organization as a whole. Of course, you can split that impact into impact on marketing, impact on products, impact on efficiency, and so on. All that is possible. And secondly, personal. How did it help you? How will it help you in furthering your career, in furthering your knowledge base, in furthering your future journey in management? Total length is, don't go beyond 3 pages. 2 is good, but 3 is possibly the outer limit. So make it 3 pages. And here, I'm just putting in front of you an example of an executive summary. So I'll give you 2-3 minutes to read this and see how well this has been written. I would say this is a very good model, and you can use this as a role model executive summary. So just spend a minute or 2 in reading this. And if you have any comments, let me know. See, the first 2 or 3 paragraphs is very, very well written. Okay, any comment? Take a look at this. ISM is the framework which has been used. So we talked about tools and techniques. So here is a technique that has been used and major findings. What are the findings? Bench column choked up, SRU, and whatever. So that is a clear listing. The executive summary should not be descriptive. It should be far more specific. And here, critical factors. So following factors were identified as critical factors with prioritization. Solution to these factors were identified and further listed down solutions. Solutions were recommended, and these reasons were found justifiable, and the implementation was found satisfactory. So you can see that the executive summary has described fully many of the parts of what is missing here is the future. In future, what can be done? So that is something which I have not included here. I have only included some parts of the executive summary. But this is one of the role model executive summary. So you can use this particular model. CP scorecard. This is a scorecard which What did you plan to achieve? Did you plan cost improvement, gross revenue increase, project execution time, market share improvement, whatever you planned, what are the initial to final? This was the plan and actual. Based on the above, what is the actual? So this is a simple way of summarizing your project outcomes. So every project report should contain this CP scorecard, the capstone project scorecard. So pay attention to this and make sure that you include this in your project report. Then introduction, how to write an. So describe the company's markets, environment. So here this is one thing which is a key learning from the capstone project. Because as I said initially, that many of you may or may not have had moved into maybe one or two or three departments. Perhaps many of you were largely in one or two departments only, thereby limiting your scope of knowledge about the company, about the context of the company, and so on, and making you think about all these subjects which usually form the subject matter for a management course. Is to develop your knowledge and strategic thinking, which you have done already by doing your primary and secondary research, and give the introduction. Describe your key strengths, etc. A SWOT diagram. All of you are aware of the SWOT diagram? Anyone not aware? What is a SWOT diagram? Anybody?
So it's a strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats.
Yeah, correct.
So
Yeah.
Recognizing the internal strength and external opportunities.
Yeah, quite right. Quite right. That is so this helps you in preparing a strategy. So quite the strengths are typically within the company and outside the company, the market strengths and the employee strength, whatever the qualities the employees have, and then the opportunities in the market. And typically you talk outside the company. Maybe, for example, you don't talk about improving efficiency in the opportunities. And then the threats and weaknesses. The weaknesses you talk about, you say that maybe we could have a better training program, or maybe we could address markets in a larger area, and so on. Those could be the weaknesses. And threats, who is the competition, who's planning to come in? Is there a product obsolescence? For example, a product obsolescence in the telecom market, 1G, 2G, 3G. There are still companies which are operating with 2G. They will have no chance. They will be beaten in the market. Because today at 5G, and even Indian companies are talking about 6G. They are developing 6G in India. So these are all this is the basis for the strategy, developing a strategy of the company. And there is a good paper by Jay Mani. I would recommend all of you read. It is very easy to read, and it is something which is in addition to SWOT. It is complementary to the SWOT analysis, and it helps you in describing the introduction for your work. The introduction, the way you write the introduction, it tells clearly. It will bring out whether you are now at the managerial and company level, or are you still in your departmental level. So this is the difference between the two, and this introduction will help you in making the transition. Okay. Introduction. Next is the description of the secondary research. So in secondary research, as you know, secondary research is something where the data is already available. Typically, the secondary research is a company data using market data, using the competition data, methodology for capstone projects, the 5 elements of secondary research have been described. So make sure that you address all those 5 elements. So you need to collect research because very often the secondary research provides some inputs for designing the future of the company and also aligning your project with the company's strategy. So that is the idea of secondary research. So how many years data? Maybe 5 years data is ideal, but some people have difficulty in getting data. So here, let me make one point here. The data, very often people find performance data difficult to get, because I just remember somebody spoke about fintech company. Fintech guard their data like as if it's something which is God himself. So it's a lot of confidentiality and so on. So confidentiality is something which we also acknowledge, and where you're not able to get performance data, use data. For example, you are in a company where you are in a particular division and you don't know the market shares, or you don't know the revenue, or you don't know the profit. What will you do? Any data, any observations on how you can get data in such situations? Any ideas? Anybody? No idea? You must have some idea. How many of you are facing this problem? The data is not available. Nobody is facing this problem. Okay.
Sir, currently I'm facing this problem because my project is with respect to business transformation. So since this business transformation data is highly confidential to any company or industry which has done the transformation in their company, so the data is not available readily on the internet. So only qualitative data is available, like general perceptions, like there is an improvement with respect to business operations, the efficiency improvement has been done, the cost reduction has been done, but how the quantitative partner, as is, it has been mentioned in this slide, it is
Yeah.
essential. So I'm facing a challenge with
Yeah.
respect
So
to
how do you
finding
get
this
this? How
data.
do you get you're not able to get the quantitative data. So what can be done?
Yeah,
How to get an
qualitative is
idea?
qualitative is yeah.
But if you want
Qual-
to get quantitative data, you go for the perception data. So ask 10 people, अपना profit कितना 0 to 5% है, 5 to 10% है, 10 to 15% है. Somebody may say 5%, somebody may say 10%, somebody may say something else. So take an average of all these figures and that becomes your estimated profit. You don't know the actual number. So by preparing proper questionnaires and giving it to the key people who are in that area, who you think would probably have the data, you can get the perception data. The people may say, I cannot tell you the profit amount. Then you ask, if somebody says efficiency has improved, so can you say, has it improved by 10%, 15%, 20%? Please tell me which is closer to the improvement percentage. So like that, if you keep asking questions, you get the perception data. People think, somebody will tell you, I think it has improved by 10%. That is good enough. That is what you can use as an estimated data. Okay. So anytime you have any problem like this, prepare a pakka questionnaire, go to the correct people and ask them these questions and try and get an idea of, for example, I remember one of the projects from Delhi, I think, Delhi or Mumbai, Himanshu, he had a problem of he was in the cakes, fragrances business. And this business is a very small business, and typically data is not available. Market demand data kitna hai? Not. So what this person did was he went to in those days the Yellow Pages was available. So he went and found out that the big bakeries in Mumbai. And then he talked to those bakeries and then said, how much do you use? Bakery will say, मैं क्यों बताऊं? Then he will say, अच्छा ठीक है, don't tell me what is exactly you're buying, but tell me approximately 100, 200, 300 kg per month, 400 kg per month. So like that, he got an idea. And then he found that there are 10 bakeries which are very big in Mumbai, and each is saying that so much is the approximate demand. And therefore, he said the likely demand in Mumbai for fragrance number one is X kgs per month. So like that, you can make this. So this, from the secondary research point of view, very often the data is, many people have, or some people have some difficulties. You can overcome in this one particular way. Okay. Then go to description of primary research. Typically, primary research today is not an issue because you've got Google and now you've got AI. So therefore, any question you can prompt and you can get some excellent data from. But be very careful. I have had instances myself where I have asked Gemini and I have asked some other AI, and I've got two dramatically different responses for the same item, the same question I raised. Because I saw in one Facebook, somebody had written that the Indian government has taken up a lot of mega projects and not one of them has been completed. So somebody had then asked the AI that, please tell me how many mega projects have been taken up in India and what is the status. So that particular AI's program said that 15 mega projects have been taken up and only one has been completed. So I said this is not correct because I keep a little bit track of mega projects. And so I asked the question of Gemini, okay, please tell me what are the. So I got a completely different answer. So be a little careful about AI because it is in its infancy. Otherwise, Google data is perhaps at this point in time a little more reliable. So for primary research, use Google, but I mean, you can use AI, and but be a little careful when you're using that data. Such data is do get confirmation from one or two AI programs. So that may be a better idea. So primary research and analysis. So both primary and secondary research put together will provide you the basis for analysis, and you can use the various tools that are being taught in the course to analyze that data. Then you have a chapter on analysis. So now you have done your primary and your secondary, and then you're obviously it is not as if that you're completing primary and then both are running concurrently. Analysis is also being done concurrently, but in the report you present it in 3 blocks. Yeah, that's the only idea. So select a solution. So the analysis in most analysis, ultimately you will have a decision matrix where you say what are the alternatives for solving this problem. Perhaps in management you would realize that there is not only one unique solution for every problem. In fact, the other is true. Almost every problem has got several solutions. So any business, large business problem. So that you have to have some sort of a matrix and have different, for example, you want to select a site for an oil refinery in India. So the factors are availability of labor, closeness to the sea, availability of ships docking, and so on. So so you have got, let us say, you got a place in The Hague, you got a space in Mumbai, you got a space in Konkan, you got a space in Thiruvananthapuram. So you put these on one vertical, and then you put the other factors on the horizontal, and then you evaluate. So this is called the decision matrix, which you can use. So this is what is the idea of this particular chapter. How did you arrive at the recommendations, which every one of your recommendation must be appropriately justified by using a decision matrix, which can be very useful to you. Then results and recommendations. So once you come to this, you have identified the solutions. Then you need to do financial analysis, risk analysis, final recommendation, and how to implement. So in this particular chapter, results and recommendation, you can discuss the various solutions identified, possible solutions which are there, and which ones are you recommending. So here, whatever you have recommended, there should be the basis. Whatever IRR, NPV, payback, these are risk analysis. Nowadays, risk analysis is very important. So you must include a risk table. You're all probably aware of the risk tables which are shown in different colors and so on. So nowadays, I think it has come into uh, use far more often than what I used to see some 10 years back. Some 10, 15 years back, risk analysis were talked about. I remember one company, Infosys, this is as early as the 90s, when they came up, and I think it was Mr. Narayan Murthy who himself made a statement that Infosys has studied the various risks of corporate decisions and come out with 124 different risks. So this was a very big work done by Infosys, but I don't know how they used it in practice. That is something which I am not aware. But then I remember in those days, the risk analysis was more of just a term. But in the last 10, 15 years, there are risk diagrams and risk numbers, and those have all come up. So risk is now a very important thing. For example, you can take the West Asia war itself, how risky it was. For example, how did India manage to reduce the risk of securing its supply chain for fuel, for crude oil, for example. So how did they do it? So that is, the risk is very important in such situations. And describe the final recommendation, and then what are the implementation plan and how it was implemented. In conclusion, you can say that describe the situation before and after the implementation. This is very important. This is what is going to tell you what is the impact of your capstone on the company, on yourself, and this is where you can mention all that. Okay, so once you include the details of the implementation, the details of what was accomplished, what were the targets set, and what is the impact of whatever work you have done on your company and on your career, then you become a little more reflective and look at best practices. Many of you have heard of best practices. Anybody aware what is the best practice and why is it useful? Any best practice that you're aware of? In your industry, in your company, what are the best practice? Those which are developed after thought and experience being practiced. Your company must be practicing it, have undergone close scrutiny for effectiveness, yield good results, which help you to do your CP well and have been approved by your mentor. So these are the best practices. So in your work, there is a certain amount of outside, let's say, support as well. Your mentor must also agree with you that yes, this is a best practice which has been useful. Either it is being practiced in the company, or you can say that it should be practiced in the company based on the idea and best practices. Why should you look at it? The idea is to ensure competitiveness. Typically, best practices are developed and practiced primarily for improving the competitiveness of a company and getting a unique competitive edge. That is the idea of a best practice. So you can give one-page reflections on best practices in your CP. What did you find? And you can identify 1 or 2 or 3 best practices. And what is the main idea? Describe the best practice in a brief way and results obtained. So this is a fintech company, and fintechs are, there are many fintech companies in India. So you find that there is one company in India which is having a very good practice in terms of customer satisfaction, or in terms of running a SIP, portfolio management. They are very good at portfolio management. Then you say that you are in a fintech and you want to adopt that particular practice. So then you study that practice and say what is good about it and what improvements has that practice brought about in the company that you have studied, and therefore you say that you can practice that, but maybe with some changes so that it gives you an edge over what is already being done. So this is the idea of a best practice. Describe the best practice in brief and what results have been obtained. Right? So that is the idea of the best practice. Finally, in the capstone project report, you need to include figures, tables, line. My suggestion is that try and include a lot of figures, tables, and so on to summarize a lot of your results rather than being very descriptive. Try and avoid being very descriptive, but be specific wherever description is needed. Be specific, but make sure that all the description that you are giving is interlinked. So what is being described in the chapter on primary or secondary research can also be referred to the results section. But then you establish that I did 5-year study of the last 5 years of the company's performance, and now I'm saying the performance now I'm recommending and I have already implemented is now much better than what it was doing in the last 5 years. So there must be that linkage throughout the report. So the report must read as a continuously evolving document, and it should be linked in between chapters. You must establish a link so that nothing stands out on its own. You have done all this work in relation to the achievement of the project, the capstone project objectives. So that's the way you need to link. So IT related screenshots, pictures, use pictures wherever possible, wherever it makes sense. Don't include too many pictures, but wherever possible, you can use pictures. Yeah. So that is the idea of the conclusion. Finally, in order to the reports are written. Many of you may have seen reports in your companies and so on. However, we also recommend that you read academic papers. And academic papers, one of the things which is distinguishing about academic papers are the references. There is always a references list that is given at the end of the paper, and in the text of the paper, these references are mentioned. The idea in looking at references is to improve your study thinking, to improve your knowledge about the area in which you are working, right? So when you do that, you need to include the references in your report. So first of all the references which you read must be annotated in the text. That means that you should mention in the text of your report what is the point that you're taking from a specific reference, okay? And that reference should be written in the reference list. So there are two things. One is annotation in the text. The other is the mention of the reference in the references list. And when there are many formats currently being used for references, I have given one format. You can use this format or any other format which is comfortable to you, but to make sure that it is an internationally accepted format, right? So references are in two parts. One is the references and bibliography. So this is whatever I have shown here is a reference academic papers, but bibliography you can give the web reference. What is the HTTP number? So that is a site reference you can give. So both type of references you can include. Finally, this is the last slide that I would like to talk about. This slide, I think every one of you should look at. This gives a very crisp and clear summary of what is expected from it, how to prepare a capstone project report. Maximum pages are 60, minimum pages are 40. You can say I have put 45 here. Minimum is 40, you can say between 40 and 60. That is the number of pages. And the division of pages has been given here. Caption page, acknowledgement, bona fide, and so on. So very clearly, you can use this as a reference guide for preparing your capstone project report. If you adhere to these guidelines, you will find that you would have prepared an excellent project. So please do keep this in mind. And as I said before, right at the beginning, in case you have not received a copy of the presentation or haven't seen it, please do look into it and let me know if anybody needs a copy of the presentation. So we are now ending the presentation. Any questions, anybody? Something is not clear or something is can be elaborated upon. Anybody has a question? So you can also, in case in your company, somebody has already gone through this course, you can ask that person to show you the capsule report that that person has submitted. That also is a possibility. So if you have no other questions, then can we bring this session to a close? Okay. Thank you very much and have a nice day. All the best. All the
Thank you.
best.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
sir.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.